Rule 1 of 12. Here is Rule 1 of 12. By May 7, 2025, roughly 100 million Americans could be turned away at security checkpoints because their driver's licenses are legally invalid for domestic flights. Imagine Jordan, a 31-year-old accountant from Phoenix, planning a quick weekend trip to New York City. He arrives at Phoenix Sky Harbor, PHX, early, feeling organized and ready. But while checking in at the kiosk, he notices a subtle warning on the screen. He looks at his license. It's missing the tiny gold star in the upper right corner. Without a real ID-compliant card, Jordan is effectively invisible to the federal security system for domestic travel starting in mid-2025. Stop. Check your license right now. If that star isn't there, you are looking at a major travel headache. The solution is straightforward, but requires a bit of prep work. You need to visit your local DMV with a birth certificate, social security card, and 2 proofs of residency. If the DMV wait times are a nightmare, a valid U.S. passport or a global entry card serves as a perfectly legal substitute at the TSA checkpoint. Jordan only made his flight to JFK because he happened to have his passport tucked in his laptop bag for a future international trip. Domestic travelers without a backup will be stuck at the curb. While the TSA has pushed this deadline back before, the 2025 date is being treated as final by federal authorities. It is a security standard, not a suggestion. Jordan avoided a disaster, but most people miss something even bigger that could cost them thousands. The next secret reveals the hidden payday airlines never want you to claim when things go wrong at the gate. Rule 2 of 12. Check your security lane before you join the line to avoid a public meltdown. Sarah, a 26-year-old graphic designer, learned this lesson the hard way at Seattle-Tacoma, SEA, during a hectic Monday morning rush. She stood in a line of 50 people, face flushing deep red, as she frantically dug through her carry-on to pull out a heavy laptop, a drawing tablet, and a quart-sized bag of liquids. Her bag tipped over, spilling a mess of chargers and clothes onto the floor, while impatient travelers groaned behind her. An agent pointed at the bulky, tunnel-like machine and told her to put everything back in. Sarah was in a lane with a modern CT scanner. These machines create high-resolution 3D images, allowing agents to rotate the view of your bag on their screens without you unzipping a single pocket. Stop. Look for the lanes with the larger rounded scanners instead of the old-school flat belts. They are becoming the standard at major hubs across the country. In most cases, these lanes allow you to leave your electronics and liquids inside your luggage, shaving minutes off your wait time. Reality check. While the TSA is rolling these out nationwide, many smaller airports or older terminals still use legacy tech. If you see a flat conveyor belt, you are still doing the old-school shuffle. Sarah eventually made her flight, but the stress was entirely avoidable. Now, a security delay is annoying, but what happens when your tech fails you right at the boarding door? Most people don't have a plan B for their boarding pass. Rule 3 of 12. Marcus, a 45-year-old real estate agent, realized his smartphone was a single point of failure that could ruin his entire trip in a split second. He was hurrying toward the security checkpoint at Denver, DEN, with only 20 minutes left before his flight to Chicago began boarding. His device held his digital ID, his ticket, and his entire itinerary. Just as he reached the front of the line, the screen flickered once and went completely black. Total battery failure. Anxiety hit him like a physical weight. No paper backup meant he couldn't prove who he was or that he had a seat on the plane. The TSA agent looked at the dead device and pointed him back toward the check-in counters. Marcus felt his heart race as the clock ticked down. Stop. Here is the move that saves your trip every time. Always carry a physical paper backup of your boarding pass, or at the very least, have your confirmation number written down on a piece of paper. If your phone dies, find a gate agent or a check-in representative immediately. In most cases, they can print a replacement pass for you using just your government-issued ID. Also, many travelers at Denver, DEN, overlook the dedicated charging stations, often hidden near the base of the gate seating areas. Marcus managed to get a paper pass from a sympathetic agent just as the final boarding call echoed through the terminal. But here is the twist. While a dead phone is a personal crisis, the next secret involves a situation where the airline actually owes you a massive amount of cash. Rule 4 of 12. Did the airline just offer you a $200 travel voucher to give up your seat on an overbooked flight? Before you jump at the chance, stop. This is the exact moment they hope you don't know what you are truly worth. Take Elena, a 38-year-old photographer from Dallas. She was sitting at the gate at Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW, waiting for her connection when the announcement came. The flight was overbooked, and they needed 3 volunteers to take a flight 4 hours later. The agent offered $200 in travel credits. It sounds like a decent win for a short wait, but Elena knew better. Those vouchers often come with strict expiration dates and blackout periods that make them incredibly difficult to use. Elena almost walked to the counter, but she remembered that airlines are trying to avoid a much larger payout required by the Department of Transportation. Under 14 CFR, if an airline bumps you involuntarily, they may owe you up to 400% of your one-way fare, capped at $1,550, depending on the length of the delay. Instead of grabbing the first low-ball offer, Elena waited. She politely asked the agent if the compensation could be issued as a check or cash instead of a voucher. The agent paused, checked their system, and the offer suddenly jumped to $800 in actual cash. This works because most passengers settle for the first offer they hear. Reality check. This is not a guaranteed payday for every flight. It depends entirely on how many people are willing to volunteer and how badly the airline needs those seats. Elena made it home with $800 in her pocket instead of a piece of paper that would have expired in a year. Now that you've mastered the gate, let's talk about the gear you leave behind in the cargo hold. Rule 5 of 12. Over 2 million bags are mishandled by U.S. airlines every single year, and most passengers have no idea how to get paid for the inconvenience. Take Victor, a 52-year-old librarian landing at Miami, MIA, for a high-stakes professional conference. He stood by the carousel for nearly an hour, watching one lonely, battered suitcase circle endlessly. His bag never appeared. No suit for his presentation, no toiletries, just pure frustration. Stop. Most travelers just file a claim and wait for a phone call that might never come. Don't do that. You have specific rights under the Department of Transportation regulations. Airlines are often required to reimburse you for reasonable expenses incurred due to a baggage delay. For domestic flights, the maximum liability for lost or delayed luggage is currently $3,800. Victor didn't just leave the airport. He went straight to the airline's baggage office and insisted on filing a property irregularity report. He asked for a copy of their incidental expenses policy right then and there. The airline eventually covered a $250 replacement outfit and basic essentials because he kept every single receipt. Reality check. This isn't a blank check for a shopping spree at a luxury mall. The airline will scrutinize every purchase to ensure it was an actual necessity. Victor kept his cool, documented the timeline, and received his reimbursement check 3 weeks later. Keeping your cool is one thing, but what if you're trapped on the plane itself? The next secret covers the nightmare of sitting on the tarmac for hours. Rule 6 of 12. Watch the clock the very moment your plane pushes back from the gate. Chloe, a 24-year-old student, was heading home from Detroit, DTW, when a sudden summer thunderstorm rolled across the airfield. Her plane pushed back, but then it stopped on a remote taxiway, and it stayed there. For 3 grueling hours the cabin grew hot and the air felt stale. People were getting thirsty and restless. Chloe felt like a prisoner in a metal tube, staring at the terminal lights just 500 yards away. Here is the fix you need to know. Federal law protects you during these intense tarmac delays. For domestic flights, U.S. Department of Transportation rules generally state that an airline cannot keep you on the tarmac for more than 3 hours without giving you the opportunity to deplane. For international flights, the limit is typically 4 hours. Chloe didn't just sit in silence. She timed the delay on her phone. After 2 hours, the airline is also required to provide food and water, as well as working restrooms. If you find yourself in this situation, you can politely ask the flight attendant about the airline's tarmac delay contingency plan. Usually, this signals to the crew that you are aware of the federal limits. Safety is always the priority, so if the pilot determines that returning to the gate is unsafe due to weather or airport conditions, you might have to wait longer. Chloe eventually made it home, but she knew exactly when her rights were being triggered. While you wait, the air you are breathing is doing something you probably don't realize. Rule 7 of 12. Julian, a 41-year-old financial advisor, sat in his seat at Los Angeles, LAX, waiting for the long haul to London. Within 90 minutes of takeoff, his throat felt like he'd swallowed a handful of dry sand. His eyes were stinging, and he felt a dull pressure behind his temples. Most people think they're just tired from work. But the reality is, the cabin environment is working against you. Airplane cabins typically maintain a humidity level between 10% and 20%. To put that in perspective, the Sahara Desert often averages around 25% humidity. This ultra-dry air acts like a sponge, pulling moisture out of your skin and mucous membranes. This makes you significantly more vulnerable to airborne germs. Julian also noticed his expensive airline meal tasted like cardboard. Science explains this. At 35,000 feet, the combination of low pressure and dry air reduces your taste buds' sensitivity by about 30%. To fight back, you shouldn't wait until you feel thirsty. Aim to sip at least 8 ounces of water for every hour you are in the air. Avoid the temptation of free coffee or soda. Caffeine and sugar can act as diuretics, worsening your dehydration. Using a simple saline nasal spray every few hours can keep your nasal passages moist and your immune system functioning. Julian arrived at his destination without the usual post-flight fatigue because he managed his personal microenvironment. While dehydration is a slow burn, The next health risk is much more sudden and dangerous for frequent flyers. Rule 8 of 12. Have you ever felt a dull, persistent ache in your legs after sitting through a long-distance flight? Naomi, a 59-year-old dentist, ignored that exact sensation while waiting for her luggage at San Francisco, SFO. Deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, is a very real risk for anyone sitting still in a cramped economy seat for more than 4 hours. Naomi had just finished a 6-hour flight from Honolulu. She noticed her right calf felt slightly tight and warm, but she assumed it was just muscle fatigue. By the time she reached her house, the swelling was unmistakable and painful. DVT occurs when blood clots form in deep veins, usually in the legs, and it can become life-threatening if a clot travels to the lungs. The fix is incredibly simple and requires no special equipment. Stay hydrated to keep your blood from thickening. More importantly, you must move your feet. Every 30 minutes, perform 15 ankle pumps by flexing your feet up and down. If your flight is longer than 4 hours, medical experts often recommend wearing compression socks with a pressure rating of 15 to 20 millimeters of mercury. Make it a point to walk up and down the aisle at least once every hour when the seatbelt sign is off. Reality check. Most healthy travelers are at low risk, but factors like age, recent surgery, or even birth control can increase the danger. Naomi caught her symptoms early and sought medical attention, but now she never flies without moving. Staying healthy is vital, but what about the germs floating around your head? The next secret about the air vent above your seat will surprise you. Rule 9 of 12. The air inside a modern jet cabin refreshes completely about 20 to 30 times every single hour. This is a much higher turnover rate than you will find in almost any office building or movie theater. Felix, a 33-year-old chef, was flying home from Paris, CDG. Shivering in the cool cabin air, he reached up and twisted his overhead air vent completely shut. Stop. He wanted to be warm, but he actually invited every germ from the rows around him into his personal breathing zone. Felix felt cozy for the moment, but he was leaving himself wide open to whatever the passenger 3 seats away was coughing out. The fix is simple. Keep that vent on, even if it's just a low stream. Modern aircraft use high-efficiency particulate air, HEPA, filters that are designed to capture 99.9% of airborne particles, including viruses and bacteria. That steady stream of filtered air creates what engineers call an air curtain around your upper body. This downward force helps push microscopic particles toward the floor and into the filtration system before you have a chance to inhale them. If you are cold, don't kill the airflow. Put on a jacket or wrap yourself in a blanket instead. Keeping that air moving is your strongest mechanical defense against getting sick during travel. Reality check. It isn't a 100% germ-proof shield, but it significantly reduces your exposure risk compared to stagnant air. Felix stayed healthy after his flight, but he never travels without a heavy hoodie now. You're breathing easier, but what about your bank account? This next legal move could save you $300 on a flight you've already booked. Rule 10 of 12. Check your flight confirmation for errors the very second you finish booking. Maya, a 29-year-old journalist, felt a wave of pure panic when she realized she had booked her flight from Newark, EWR, to London for the wrong month. Even worse, She saw the same flight listed for $200 less on a different site just 10 minutes later. She stared at the non-refundable label on her digital receipt, thinking her money was gone forever. Most travelers assume they are trapped the moment they click Purchase. Stop. In the United States, Department of Transportation regulations require airlines to allow you to cancel or change a booking within 24 hours of purchase without any penalty, provided you book the flight at least 7 days before the departure date. This rule applies to all carriers flying into or out of the U.S. Maya didn't wait. She called the airline's customer service line immediately. She remained polite and simply cited the 24-hour grace period. The agent confirmed the policy and processed her full refund without a single argument. Reality check. This rule generally only applies if you book directly through the airline's website. If you use a third-party travel agency or a discount booking site, their own restrictive policies might apply instead. Maya got her money back and rebooked the cheaper rate, saving hundreds. Now you're ready for the final piece of the travel puzzle that separates the pros from the amateurs. Rule 11 of 12. Leo, a 47-year-old physical therapist, stood at Gate 12 in Portland, PDX, watching the overhead bins fill up with massive rolling suitcases. He was wearing a sharp blazer, secretly hoping for one of those legendary free upgrades to first class because he looked the part. But as the gate agent announced the flight was completely full, reality hit. The agent didn't care about his outfit. They were only concerned with the fact that the plane was out of space for bags. Leo felt a spike of frustration as he realized he'd likely have to squeeze his backpack under the seat in front of him, losing all his legroom. The era of dressing up for a better seat is effectively over. Most airline systems now automate upgrades based strictly on elite loyalty status and fare class. However, you can still win by being proactive. When you see that a flight is packed, don't wait for the agent to force people to check their bags at the last second. Approach the desk before boarding starts and ask, "Since the flight is full, would you like me to gate check this bag to my final destination for free?" Often, they will happily do it. This clears your overhead space requirements and ensures you won't be wrestling a 25-pound suitcase into a tiny compartment while 100 people stare at you. It's not a ticket to first class, but it is a ticket to a stress-free boarding process. Agents at Portland, PDX, usually appreciate travelers who make their jobs easier. Leo didn't get a champagne toast, but he kept his legroom and avoided the boarding scramble. Now, let's look at the very last secret that can give you an entire row to yourself. Rule 12 of 12. Ever wondered why everyone rushes to the front of the plane, only to end up elbow to elbow with a complete stranger for 5 hours? Grace, a 63-year-old veterinarian, lived that regret during her last trip through London Heathrow, LHR. She had paid extra for a seat in row 6, thinking it would be more convenient to be the first one off the aircraft. Instead, she spent the entire flight sandwiched between two very large passengers, unable to even open her book. The front of the economy cabin is almost always a crowded trap. Here is the professional fix. Head for the tail. Most people instinctively avoid the back of the plane because of the engine noise, or the longer wait to deplane at the end. But if a flight isn't 100% full, the very last rows are almost always the last to be assigned. You can often snag an entire middle row to yourself if you play your cards right. Before boarding, ask the gate agent at Heathrow, LHR, about the load factor of the flight. If the plane is less than 80% full, ask if you can move your seat to one of the last 3 rows. Politeness is your most effective tool here. It's not a 100% guarantee, especially on busy holiday routes, but smart travelers take that bet every single time. Grace learned her lesson and now enjoys the extra space that most people are too impatient to find. You are now prepared for your next journey with the knowledge of an insider. You are in control of your comfort, your health, and your wallet. Don't be the passenger the airlines take advantage of. Join our squad of savvy travelers by hitting that subscribe button right now.